200?
Yeah, we're gonna hit 200
Damn, that's like BC with Clark's on.
And now we're going to that Clark's has been around for 200 years. Oh my gosh. Well, like I tell you, we grew up on Clark's. Grew up on it. Grew up in it.
Wow, 200 years is crazy. Do we think about your brand outliving you?
I can't even think of 200 years ago. I mean, it's another world.
To hear that Clark's been around for 200 years, yo, man, that's amazing. That's a big accomplishment. 200 years. TVs wasn't even out probably. You know what I'm saying? It's like refrigerators wasn't out probably, you know what I mean? Ice trays and, you know what I mean? You gotta let the phone. It was like, yo, 200, that's crazy.
I don't think there is any other brands really for me. I find it hard to even look at other brands. I don't think there's much knocking about really on a shoe tip. But I don't know, they're just comfy and they've never let me down, man. They do exactly what they say on the tin. They've always served me well.
Somerset is a county in southwest England. It is famous for its rural beauty, and it is home to the village of Street, where the story of Clark's begins. The Clark family's loyalty to Street, along with the dedication to their Quaker principles, saw them bring education, opportunity, and a unique perspective that would empower this remote village to think creatively and bring Somerset to the world.
Somerset in 1825 was relatively cut off from the rest of the country. It allowed the family to be self-sufficient and empowered them with the freedoms to do things differently.
We had to do our own tanning, our own shoemaking. The components had to come from here, and I think that had a huge effect on the way that the brand built up from 1825 to what it is today.
Clark's was founded upon Quaker principles of integrity, simplicity, equality, and community.
Talking about community, it was very important to the Clark family. I went to a Quaker school, so I understand these values, and you can see them through the generations of the business.
From its isolated home in Somerset, Clark's defined and redefined the footwear industry, blending innovation with tradition, developing many of the shoemaking techniques that are still used across the world today. These techniques have placed the comfort and health of feet as a top priority of the design process.
So all Clark's shoes cradle the heel completely. And of course, we always make sure there's up to 3 months growing room in every pair. This is our blueprint. These are our shoes.
Who made me want to wear Clark's? No one really. My mum made me wear Clark's.
My earliest memory of Clark's is 100% school shoes. That's where everybody would go to get their school shoes, and there was this like weird machine contraption thing which I very much remember being terrified of at the beginning, and then I used to get really excited to go Clark's, get my feet measured.
My earliest memories of Clark's probably when I got to school and that, because everyone was wearing them. They were all big rays, weren't they, when you're about 3 or 4. So go and get your shoe, your foot measured and that.
Whenever your child gets their first pair of shoes, the first place you go, so you know their width, so you know the depth, so you know the size of their little feet, is Clark's.
When Clark's traveled from England to new markets, its unique approach to shoemaking saw it be adopted by free thinkers from across the globe. From Jamaica to Tokyo, people from all walks of life expressed their enthusiasm for the shoes and moved forward to impact the world of arts and culture with indelible style.
I grew up in Kingston, and I live in Kingston all of my life. Well, let me tell you, from the early days, like before the dawn of independence, I used to wear Clark's. My father was a government worker, and he had friends who used to work on the boats that carried banana to England in those days. And what happened is that my father used to have them buy these Clark shoes for me to go to school with. Coming back to Jamaica, everybody used to wonder, where you get that from? Because these didn't sell in Jamaica at that time. It was something that people look down on your feet and say, oh my God, what is that this guy got on there? You know, it's catching.
Late 67 to 68 to start wear Clarks when it was less than £10. Clark's booty we call it, yeah man. Then before them come talk about desert and all them things. The original Clark's booty, so it's more neat and cuter than the rest. People that dress up well and going to dance, you know, and the cheese, you can rock your feet so nice. It become a hit among certain youths that could afford it.
You know, it was this aspirational, premium, expensive British brand that everybody wanted to get their hands on. So anytime you were back to England, you'd have to carry back Clarks with you for everyone in your family, everyone you know. And that just became the shoe of Jamaica, essentially.
It became one of the most popular shoes in Jamaica. Every youngster, every young boy going to parties and they wanted to wear Clark shoes.
Clarks was that type of shoe that was being sent here from England. And if you know anything about Jamaicans, you know that if anything is coming from overseas, it's like worship. But I don't know, there's just something really special about Clarks.
Well, the first time I got introduced to Wallabies, like I said, we had to be in our teenager years and right in my neighborhood, you know. My neighborhood was filled with, you know, the whole West Indian culture.
Dusty and like a bunch of Jamaicans and I think it was from Guyana somewhere. So, yo, they used to just come through the block up in his projects, like just mad heavy with Wallabies on, you know, and they looked so raw on his feet, you know, like and mad comfortable because they used to sport them with velours and, you know what I mean, and big cables and birds. And if you wasn't there like in the golden era, like 88, 87, 89, when, you know, it was a multiple pairs of sneakers that was popping, but Clarks was right there with them.
I think Clarks came into the culture during, you know, the sneaker wars and because it just was real. And then as the music grew, I think the shoe followed it. You know, when the UK really started listening to hip hop in the US and vice versa, I think one of the things that stayed true was the fashion.
Cats from my generation who considered ourselves rebels, if you will, we weren't trying to dress straight. We weren't trying to be part of like traditional fashion and traditional society. So Clarks always had like an edge to it that felt right.
So in the 1960s, the first thing you have to understand was Japanese kids had to be in uniform all the time, so they weren't even really dressing up. And the big revolution came with Ivy League style around 1963, 1964, and it was explained to teenagers through a couple magazines, Men's Club and Haybone Punch. The main thing to understand about fashion at this time for guys is that they had never really seen Americans or people in the UK, and so they were being told these are the quintessential items for dressing up and being Ivy. And one of the shoes that was really important and that these magazines introduced was the chukka boot, and more specifically the desert boot. You know, desert boots were one of the core shoes that people started to wear when they started to dress outside of their uniforms, and so really kind of core foundational shoe for Japanese youth culture. Then in the late 70s with the surfer boom, you start getting more of the wallaby coming in as well. So Harajuku developed as Japan's major youth fashion neighborhood, and it brought all these kids in. And there was this one little quadrant of Harajuku that was called back Harajuku. So Ura Harajuku means the back streets of Harajuku, basically.
クラークスのシューズ自体を裏原宿でこう頻繁に見るようになった一番最初の発信源っていうのは2号さん。その2号さんのさらに震源をたどるとビースティーボーイズに行き着くんですね。それは まさにその雑誌の連載クラークスの紹介のされ方がビースティーボーイズが履いてたっていうので紹介されてるんですよ。この女の子のコーディネートはもうまさに裏腹スタイル。これは女子男子問わず
就12年的时候，就是我刚开始做品牌的时候，然后在抛派上面，然后看到了一些关于 wallaby 的搭配，然后那个时候其实我还不是很了解这个是什么牌子，然后当时就在一些像 eBay 啊，然后电商的平台上面就开始搜这个鞋款。对
，Clarks 我第一印象是那个 Desert Boots 那双沙漠靴。因为对于我来讲 ，Clarks 这双沙漠靴就有点像是可以非常好的去搭配我任何的一个造型，有的时候可能可以正式一点，那有的时候可以稍微 sports 一点啊。那我觉得穿一双 Clarks 鞋是不会出错的。对，其实我一开始知道这个200周年，我其实是挺惊讶的啊，因为我不知道原来这个品牌已经有这么漫长的历史了。啊，那我非常钦佩这一点，因为作为一个自己在做品牌的一个所谓的创始人。我觉得要一个品牌可以坚持这么久，还这么活跃的在市场上跟消费者沟通，这个是一个非常非常难的事情。
其实我自己在关注这个 Oasis 就绿洲乐队的时候，其实我也有看到他们频繁的在穿着 Clarks。
Growing up, we didn't have much money, but Clarks were just the ones. But I mean, I got an Oasis at 18, so kind of made it round about 19. Yeah, no, look, I was wore Clarks all the way through the 90s, so I've got lots of memories. I was obsessed with them. Clarks bucket hat that I wore maybe at Wembley or somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but I don't know where it's gone now. I want another one, so if you're bringing them back, send them over. Because it was smart, it was wide rim as well, it's like the cricket hats. A lot of these bucket hats today, man, they look like someone's plonked an egg on your head. I like them wide brim, man. So yeah, bring them back, Clarks, and I'll put one on my head for you.
It's like you put Clarks on and you're really saying something, you know? It was like a rebel shoe. Next minute, all the artists are either putting it in their lyrics or they're, you know, wearing Clarks on their album covers or they're literally making songs about Clarks.
When I got the call for the Apollo Kids video, I was in LA. You know, it was Ghost on my phone and you know, that voice is immediately recognizable. But he just, you know, he was telling me about Tony Stark's and his thought process, and I hadn't heard the song yet. Back in the day, like he couldn't just send me the song. So I received a CD of the song, like the next day, somebody wants to put it in FedEx. And I listened to it, called him back, and I was like, yo, this is crazy, this is fresh. And he's like, yeah, we gotta shoot the video in 3 days. And I just started writing.
Chris is those type of dudes. He ain't gonna talk long, I'm gonna give you what it is, but he got it. And we told him, yo, we want it in Technicolor, like, you know, everything gotta be radiant. And
going into that video, I think I might have like spoke about like a factory or just having mad wallabies.
We had to have over 300 pairs of Clarks. Like, I don't know, you know, back in the day, we didn't even really understand product placement. So maybe we should have called Clarks, but we only had 3 days to pull it together, right? So that was a part of the budget where we just bought as many Clarks as possible, and then we wanted to dye them. We wanted to put them through their paces. There's one setup where the Clarks are on these 4 different, it's like on a pinwheel, and they would dip into the paint. So that was super fun. I think what was dope about it is that it was in the culture. It was natural.
Clarks and Jamaican artists, trust me, they go hand in hand. If you see some of your favorite artists, I'm sure if we look back in the day, probably every single, you know, artist that's on these walls, that's on these vinyl records, have owned a pair of Clarks and cherish it.
Through a dedication to shoemaking, to quality, and to the communities who have embraced the brand, Clarks has stood the test of time for over 200 years. And by continuing to blend innovative design with timeless craftsmanship, Clarks can step confidently into the future.
As part of the family, you know, here I'm 6th generation, the 7th and the 8th is probably on the way. You know, there's a massive emotional attachment, and all the family would probably say the same thing to you.
Shoes is what we do it well, and we should continue doing shoes.
I've bought my son Clarks. My parents bought me Clarks. My dad used to wear Clarks. So I think it's just naturally interwoven into the culture.
They've been here so long that it's like, yo, this is the perfect, comfortable shoe.
I've never wear another shoes that I can walk into all day.
Clarks introduced me to footwear outside of sneakers. What I think Clarks represents for women today is versatility. You know, what the little black dress is to apparel is what Clarks is to footwear.
You know, I always felt like Clarks kind of hit this sweet spot between what's casual, what's dressy, and still kind of has street cred fly.
I call it a up and down shoe because you could wear it dressing up, you could wear it dressing down.
We have persons wearing Clarks from a child going to school till they get to adult. You can wear it to a wedding, any function you can wear a Clarks to. Even our Prime Minister wears his Clarks these days.
When you say the name Clarks, there's something sort of very solid and comforting.
I still buy Clarks, you know what I mean? A lot of my mates would say, I go, oh, you must get them for now. When I'm in London, the first place I go to is Clarks. I still get my cash out for the Clarks, man, because they deserve it. And if I get a freebie every now and again, then happy days, you know what I mean?
To me, Clarks isn't just a shoe. It's like, it carries so much weight, so much culture and history that you're just making a statement when you put them on.
Still be here now and to still be relevant and known to like the younger generation and things like, and still doing it. That's crazy.
Clarks is a sophisticated shoe. It's like an old Bentley or an old Rolls Royce, and it's a classic.
Whoever created Clarks, they loved it. They cared about it. There was a quality and a pride put to it. If you do stick around that long, that means it means something to them more than a product.
Just the fact to tell you that Clark is a magnificent company.
They have provided what people need. I just want them to continue to do it, because whatever it just works.
Clarks is just a true heritage brand. It's iconic.
Yeah, you don't know, from Kingston, Jamaica to Somerset to the world.
From Somerset to the world.
Somerset to the world.
And Somerset to the world.
Somerset to the world, baby.
From Somerset to the world.
From Somerset to the world.
Somerset to the whole wide world.